defenseless, defenseless against your lips, the way they smile, the way they kiss. Defenseless, defenseless against your arms, the way they hold so nice and warm. Well, it's useless to fight it. I know that I can't win, but I don't care, little girl. Just let the battle begin. Yeah, yeah, defenseless. No need to worry about nothing. No need to worry about. No need to worry, you see. No need to worry, you see. All you gotta do is turn down the lights and sit around and talk. Just walking in the rain. Just walking in the rain. Getting soaking wet. Getting soaking wet. Torture in my heart. Torture in my heart. By trying to forget. By trying to forget. Just walking in the rain. Just walking in the rain. All
around, bunches of witches dancing to that sound. Swing your sweet girl left and right. Cadillac dreaming is breaking out tonight. If there's one thing I would truly love to see, Saturday night trucking hero, watching Lonnie Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Lonnie Lee. It's a ballad, so it's the longest.
You ask me, did my love hurt me? Can you tell by the tears in my eyes? Can't you hear it in the way that my voice shakes? Can't you see it in my eyes? Can't you see it in my eyes? You ask me, do I
whiskey and gin. Well, now listen to me, she gives me good night. Oh, just squeeze the midnight. Oh, Lord, I'm just lonesome. And she turns out the light. There ain't no town in sight. She takes me to a river where there's still one flower. Who loves whiskey and gin? But who knows where love begins or where it ends? Well, I never much care when on the phone said I call on my baby in my own special way. Well, she is my baby. She loves whiskey and gin. I'll never fall in love again. It's all over now. It takes a heart to know the end. I tried to take a chance to feel the thrill of romance and let my foolish heart become enchanted with starlight above. I pretend I never heard a tender loving word from you. You found another love and forgotten every joy we knew. Please help me understand the way the angels planned our love affair to end. I'll never fall in love again. I'll pretend I've never heard the tender loving word from you. You found another love and forgotten every joy we knew. Please help me understand the way the angels planned our love affair to end. I'll never ever fall. I'll never fall in love again.
Crazy music echoing around. Budgies and witchies dancing to that sound. Swing you sweet girl left and right. Cadillac dreaming is breaking out tonight. If there's one thing I would truly love to see, Saturday night the Trocadero, watching Lonnie Lee. Rockabilly music, dig that sound. This is a big night in Sydney town. FJ Holden, circle of the block. There's a pretty girl.
Give a round of applause to the very first rock and roll dance organiser before O'Keefe in Australia, Alan Dale. Now we've got to sing because he just had his birthday yesterday, the day before. He's 103. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, there you go, mate. And he gets all embarrassed because he pushes everyone else else's barrow but his own. When the rock and roll industry went through a real bad time after the few short years of its heyday, everything only lasts a couple of years, right? And if you're not on top, as Lonnie said to me the other week on the phone, if you haven't got a record on top of the hit parade, you're not eating. But, so nobody wanted to know. Alan pulled so many guys out of retirement to do the Johnny O'Keefe Memorial Show, which found a lot of work for all of our older stars at the time that weren't working, right? And even though he used to be fierce competition with O'Keefe for the dancers, which if we've got time later, we need to tell you about that. He's the best. He's been one of the guys that's plugged O'Keefe more than anybody else. And instead, you don't want to listen to me talking about all this, I'm going to let him explain very quickly to you about that and then introduce our very special guest. And let's see, because this is not scripted, right? This is all straight off the top of the head. Now, we're not going to do a Jade, are we? We're not going to have Molly bloody else today, are we?
No way. No, I made the mistake yesterday of introducing Jade, and I said, Jade, you had a semi-hit, actually it was a big machine you really recorded, Down in the Riverina. Now, how did that happen? And an hour later, we still didn't know. And to this minute, we still don't know. That was Jade. He had a 2-hour, he gave everybody a 2-hour sermon. This is Lonnie Lee. No, we don't know what he meant this morning. This is my good friend Lonnie Lee, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a nice round of applause. Thank you. Come on, coming along this morning because he worked last night at Seagulls and did a big show there. He was the top of the bill there last night. It was a wonderful night. But let's just paint a little bit of background really quickly and then we'll move right on to Lonnie because it's his morning. What happened was, way back in the year 1956, in November of that year, onto our screens came Blackboard Jungle. And when I saw that movie, I'd previously been singing with dance bands. And I thought, hello, this new music, this rock around the clock, I've got to get into this. So I formed a band that was exactly the same complement as Bill Haley and the Comets. And we rehearsed pretty badly there in the latter part of 1956. And in 1957, I opened a dance at the Maroubra Memorial Hall on the 6th of February in 1957. And I gave each of the guys in the band, I think they got 2 guineas each. That's how the door turned out, and that's what they got. I've still got it written down in the diary. And we went out and we bought some nice blue suits, because in those days, everyone in the rock and roll industry, as you saw from some of that old black and white footage, they were suits and ties, they were all well dressed, even up to the Beatles era. Everybody dressed nicely. Shame on those these days, they look as though they just walked off a garbage truck. But anyway, we did it right. But back then we started the dance scene, and then we had dances around all Sydney town halls mainly, because remember this, there was no Sunday trading as far as buying a drink or a packaged beer or anything. Pubs were shut, everything was shut on Sundays. So it was pretty hard to get places to work in. And I'd started off with these dances every night of the week around Sydney, and then O'Keefe started down at Stones Mill Bar at Coogee, and then Cole Joy, of course, he started out at the Capital Law and out at East Hills. And then along came a new group, Lonnie Lee and the Lee Men. Now, you take it from there, Lonnie.
Oh, well.
Long story, 46 years ago.
Yes, a long, long story.
Where'd you win the talent quest?
That was, well, the first talent quest I went in was Alan Tui's Amateur Hour, which you also did, and which Johnny O'Keefe did. This is before rock and roll, and I went on there as, you did an audition, and you had to present 3 songs, and they chose a song. And there's a guy called Frank Scott, who was a piano player, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no band, there's just a piano player. Anyway, so I presented, I liked Johnny Ray at the time, so I sang Cry, and I said, okay, what's another one? So I liked Nat King Cole, so I sang Autumn Leaves, and I said, yeah, okay, that's good, what's the other one? And so I sang Heartbreak Hotel, which had just been released. This is in 56 sometime, and it had just been released, and they said, well, we had a guy on a couple of weeks ago, that sang the Johnny Ray one, and the other one's a little bit slow. We've got a couple of people singing slow songs. So I did this one here, the guy with the funny name, which of course was Elvis. So I sang Heartbreak Hotel and came second to an opera singer. But on the night, he said, I'd like to send, this is Alan T, I'd like to send a cheerio call to a guy who was on, who won, and who was on, and he's down in Wollongong with one of his first jobs, and all that, and it was Johnny O'Keefe doing the Johnny Ray stuff, right? So anyway, that was my first introduction to anything. Then later on, that was in the middle of '56. Then in February '57, Elvis's first movie, Lovely Tender, was to come out, and it was still a bit, well, who's the guy with a funny name? So not too many people knew Elvis. Radio wasn't that good to him at the time. Well, he didn't have too many songs to play. And so they thought, well, what we'll do is this is MGM Movies, what we'll do is to try and up the ante, and so more people know Elvis and we'll go see Lovely Tender. We'll run a contest and see if we can find an Australian Elvis Presley, not to find one, but to get some press so that the papers will write about it. So anyway, I'm working at 2GB at the time, and I'm as a clerk in 2GB, and my dream, as far as anything other than in the country, was to be a radio announcer. So in those days, you didn't start in Sydney, they started you in Dubbo or Billett or somewhere else like that. But I was waiting for a job to get out there. I was like 16, waiting for a job to go out there, and they said, well, you have to become a panel operator and learn all the business, the scheduling and all that. So I was in the office there, and then February '57 came along, and two of the guys I was working with, they came by and they said to me, there's a contest on tomorrow night. And I said, oh yeah, and I was really nervous. I love to sing, had the guitar, I had my guitar, and I love to sing and whatever. But they said, go in the contest. I said, oh no, I hadn't thought of becoming a singer as such. I just like to sing. Took the guitar in and sang for the people in the office. Anyway, they dragged me down to the Trocadero and ended me in this thing. I was a bit nervous, so they took me around to the pub around the corner and plied me with a grog. And by the time we got back, I thought, well, I hope it's too late, it's over. Because they said, we don't know whether we can get you on because a lot of people here want to go on and do it. So I was really hoping that they didn't have me. Anyway, right toward the end, they said, okay, you ready? Off you go. Pushed me out there, and you had to do 3 songs. So I did the 3 songs, and the audience went 8. I couldn't believe it. They went 8. So I ended up singing the whole 8 songs of Elvis that anybody knew at the time, so especially me. So I sang these 8 songs and became Australia's Elvis Presley. And the Sydney Sun wrote a big story, and at the time my mother was living in a place called Greenacre, which I think it was called East Bankstown at the time. So they had up there Clark, East Bankstown, Clark, now Australia's Elvis Presley or something. And to my knowledge, that was the first really big article in a Sydney paper about rock and roll. But that wasn't because of me, it was because of the Elvis stuff. But that started the whole thing. You talk about the talent contest. Then after that, I started getting little jobs. I formed a little, while you were doing your stuff, I remember hearing about you over around the Pagewood area and all around over there. And I hadn't heard about the Jacobsons yet, although a little bit later on I did. Then I started a little trio, rockabilly trio, while you had the band, the House Rockers, but it was like a Bill Haley type conversation.
Bill Haley band.
Yeah, you had that going. I started just a little trio, so there's myself and a guy called Billy Moscow on guitar, and we didn't have drums in those days. A guy called Kenny Hands. We made a bass out of a tea-chest. Remember that? And oh, great sound. It's tremendous for rockabilly. So we had that. We did some shows around the place. They're doing that. Now, I filled in for you one time. You were on vacation at Mawson's at Newtown. And you went away and with your band, the House Rockers. So I filled in there one time.
Yeah.
This is before I was Lonnie Lee. I was Lonnie Lee.
Yeah. And I also gave you the Tempe Hotel.
That's right.
Sorry
Yes.
to say.
That's right. Yeah, the Tempe Hotel.
All class, George.
Well, there was nothing else happening. That was it. That was it. And I was there, and Billy, my guitar player, had to leave, so I was looking for another guitar player, and they were like rocking horse stuff, at the time. It was really difficult to find. So I heard about a guy who was living in some bush area around Maroubra. I guess it's all housing now. And I went there and found him, and he was like 65 years of age. Billy Blinkhorn.
Billy Blinkhorn, yeah, smiling Billy Blinkhorn. That's right, he did live out there.
Yeah. So anyway, so he joined my band. Well, the three of us again. So there's Billy Blinkhorn, who actually has got a history of his own. His big hit was "Bird in a Gilded Cage," and he was Canadian. And he came out here originally to Australia with Bob Dyer. They were a duo, and they came out originally and did the Tivoli. Anyway, Bob Dyer, of course, became a big hit on radio.
And when square dancing started in Sydney, Billy Blinkhorn was the best square dancer.
Yes,
a lot of money there.
Absolutely, yeah. So he was really pretty much retired, you know, but he liked me a lot. I was only a kid, you know, and so we did that. And then I was working in the bank, and they pulled me in one time because all the girls in the thing, I used to wear the light blue coat and the pink shirt and the white tie and all this, and non-conformist, of course. And so anyway, the bank manager pulled me in one time and he said, "Well, listen, son, it's you've got a big decision to make here." I said, "Yes, what is it?" He said, "You're going to be a singer or a bank manager?" And I said, "Oh, God, you know, this is really tough." And I said, "Well, I guess I'll have to be a singer." He said, "Okay, you've got 2 weeks." So during those 2 weeks, this is at the end of '57, during those 2 weeks, I had a car. So I used to go to, backwards and forwards, I had a 36 Dodge, and it was like a tank. And I was going to the bank on one of the last weeks I was there, and I was somehow coming down this hill, and the bloody steering forgot that it was connected to the car. And so I'm screaming down there, and it's going like this, and I think, "Oh, shit, what's going to happen?" So I had the guitar in the back, and all I could think of was, "Oh, God, the guitar." And somehow I jumped, I can't remember why I did this, but I jumped into the back seat of the car, and we're screaming down the hill. The car hit a pole, broke the pole, the telegraph pole, and the whole engine came straight through into the back seat. It would have been squashed, you know. Anyway, so I just got out of the back seat with my guitar and walked down the street. It was really strange. Anyway, my father, who was in the country, heard about this and he said, "Ah, this is what Sydney's about, son." Huh? So he pulled me back to the country. So I spent the whole of '58 out of Sydney, and so a place called Rowena, which is in between Walgett and Warree. My grandfather started a sheep property there in about 1980 and built the property in 1910, and so I was back there. So I used to sing around the dance halls, well, the woolsheds and stuff there, and with a band. And this will knock you out. I don't know whether any of you from the country, but there's a band that was really, really popular. They were the worst band in the world, but they were really, really popular only because I imagine there was no one else except them. And it was Frank Burke and his White Rose Horse.
White Rose Horse.
My God, there you go. He had a drum, a bass drum that was this tall. It was a Salvation Army one. You know what? It was this tall. And then on the top, he had one little drum there, a cymbal, which is the big brass thing you see, was only this big. Then he had skulls. All over the go. They were the, remember that?
Yes, I remember those skulls, or coconuts as they called them.
Yeah, and so anyway, he said he was really big. Now I'm telling you, this guy did all the balls all around the country. So he was really, really big out there. That's right, he had a violinist that was quite remarkable actually, because I've never, up to now, heard a violinist that could play off tune for so long. And so anyway, this
I know the tempo.
you know
Yeah, it was all like a barnyard's run.
that's it.
All night. That's the
Oh yeah, but it wasn't even as good as that. It was out of tune even. But anyway, so that I was doing stuff there while things were happening. While Alan's empire down in Sydney was getting more and more clubs and more places that, or hotels at the time that you were doing, and of course Jock was going on, and then Jock got himself into Festival Records and conned his way into getting a contract there. And it started, and then Col Joy started. Actually, well, they went to Joy's. It was a Jacobson Trio.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, it was Kevin
Jacobson Trio.
Yeah. And then later on, they decided to cut out, well, the lady, what was her name? The lady with the mystic, you know, cosmic lady. Oh, she's a deal song.
Yeah. on the tip.
Dorothy or something?
Yeah, from the cross.
Yeah.
She had black masses and all that stuff.
Anyway, she came up with the name for Cold Joy.
Rosalind Norton.
Came up with the name for Cold Joy. And then I came back in '59 and started. I was still Laurie Ricks, so I started Laurie Ricks and the Beatniks.
Well, 6 o'clock rock would have been the thing.
That was at the end of '59, and that was the thing that really kicked me off. And how I got there, I had a fan club. A couple of young ladies from around Peakhurst area started a fan club for me, and so I was playing at a few of the little gigs around the place once again with my little band and little trio. And then she said to me, "Well, we know Johnny O'Keefe, or we know of Johnny or something like this." And so the next thing I know, she said, "We've made an appointment for you to go and see him at his house." So I trot over there. Now I remember O'Keefe because I did not the Elvis Presley thing, but I went in another. Because of the Elvis Presley thing, I won a night at the Trocadero with the Frank Coughlin band, and O'Keefe was a compere there.
Built in 1931.
Yeah, that's right. Beautiful. Absolutely. And they ripped it down because of greed. Left a hole in the ground. Yeah, bloody disgraceful. And so I met Jock prior to this, and it's just set himself up. Well, actually, I won a prize that I never got, because the prize that I was to get was to perform on the Little Richard show, which was the first rock and roll show to come to the Gordons to bring out. And it turned out that well, long story I won't go into, but it turned out there was another girl that was on this thing from Perth, who was a girl Elvis sort of singer, and she got the job, and I didn't get the job because I guess I didn't wear a frock.
I think
that was it. Yeah, and she did that thing, and but sort of went on 6 o'clock rock. I just say that just spread my name more. Then a guy called Alan Heffernan, beautiful man that lives just up here.
He's up on the wall next to life.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, that's right. Good job. Yeah. Well, Alan lives up here. He's a very old gentleman now, and he was Lee Gordon's right-hand man. And he came and offered me, he said, "Would you like to, we're hearing just so much stuff about you, would you like to record?" And I said, "Geez, of course I'd like to record." You know, I tried with the festival and they rejected me with the band, not because they didn't like me, but they said, "We've got enough people." They had Joy at the time and a job. Yeah. And so they said, "We don't want any more." And so that was it. And then I went and I had my band, and we recorded an album called This Is Lonnie Lee. That was my first thing. And then because that went well, he came to me and he said, "You want to do a single?" And so I picked out Shame on You, Miss Johnson, which is the same guy who wrote Do You Want to Dance? That song. And so I really liked the song. So I decided to do that. So I turned up at the rehearsal above Woolworths in King's Cross, the ABC studios, that? And so we were there rehearsing and did the song, and then Jock came by. He wasn't there, he came by and he said, "Oh yeah, what's it sound like? What's the song?" I said, "That sounds great to me," so we listened to the song, and I said, "Yes, tremendous, okay, what's the other one?" And of course I still today, I don't know how this happened, but somehow I didn't turn up with 2 songs. I was invited to do a record, a song. So I just took my song. And so yeah, I took one side. So he said, what else do you want to record? And for the life of me, my bloody brain went blank and I couldn't think of anything at all to record. So he said, "Okay, well, if you feel like writing something?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Okay, so we sat down at the piano, 20 minutes, we ended up with Ain't It So. And then that was the song that actually started my whole career.
Lonnie, Ain't It So wasn't your first appearance on 6 o'clock rock.
No.
But it was your first record.
Yeah.
Ron, would you like to...
Well, you got it up there, haven't you?
Yeah, we got it.
Holy moly.
There it is. We'll feed it in. Because what you've got to realise here, folks, is below 6 o'clock rock, it ran from the 28th of February 1959, ran for 2 years. There's only 1 hour and a quarter of footage of it left. And
Now
it's
it's
like
got the
happens-
bloody lot.
No, not only got that, but everything else. But you pull a dinosaur out of your head and off. That's Ernie Wilson. Now look at this. Here we go.
Oh, Jesus, look at the kid. Jesus, if I will get arrested or not.
There you go. You're a good looking.
You know, one of those guys,
Spunk, as the girls said. What do you think of the girls in the petticoats?
the dancer, yeah.
And that was, you didn't mind
Yeah,
that.
didn't mind it either.
No, it's fine.
No.
Sang it live.
Yeah, because after that you seem to get into that rotten miming situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was bandstand because
Yeah.
they record record it on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and then by the Saturday you'd have to try and remember how you sang it, so you could lip sing it properly because that's how that started. But 6 o'clock rock was always live like that. Yeah, it was great fun.
Now, I've got to tell you this, 6 o'clock rock ran for 2 years, and I used to conduct a popularity poll all the time. People would write in and vote for their favourite person. And there were so many people who appeared on it and made their careers out of 6 o'clock rock, there's no doubt about that. But this fellow at that time, although Johnny O'Keefe was big and he was the conqueror of the show and had complete control, Lonnie Lee polled more votes and got more fan mail than Jock ever saw. And that is true, that's well documented, isn't it? And
Yeah,
that's a feather in your cap.
Yeah, well, I don't know, feather, it just, I guess just something happened. But I was really surprised because I didn't learn this until recently, until I'd come back from living in America. And they showed me, they found a desk or something that would have been at the ABC with all the archives and stuff in it, as you know. And on there was a sheet of paper and it had the results of this poll from November or something, 1960 or 61, whatever. And sure enough, I'm up the top there. I was amazed. And Barry Stanton was there too, wasn't he?
Yeah, Barry.
Up there somewhere, you know. I think myself, then Jock, then I think maybe Barry.
How many hits did you have in that Lee Jordan section there?
The whole area.
59 to 61. 61.
Right. I had 8 songs that went to number 1.
Right.
Now, that was national, because in those days it was national. There's some books out these days. There's one book out called I think it's called the Top 40, but it's about 2UE. But there wasn't one station that had the only hit parade that ran all the way through. There were lots of stations, as you know, that had their own concurrent Alan Tui, that's right. 2SM had one at one stage. 2GB had one, which is a really good one at one time. 2SM. And so they're all different things too. We use in flavour for it sometimes, and yet even though it wasn't in flavour, it still had the top 40 going. But you didn't really, you may have been number 1 on 2GB, which is the major station, and you may have been like number whatever on the other stations. Then of course there was Melbourne, they had their own stuff, in Brisbane or whatever. But altogether, I had 8 number 1s, and 5 of them went gold. I found New Love went double gold, according to that picture, who told me who wrote it. And so I was really, really lucky at that time. You know, they were great songs. They were all great songs. You know, and I spent a lot of time trying to get them right. You know, I always had good musicians around me, which is really, really important. Same as your House Rockers were just absolutely brilliant. They were the best band at the time. It was just great stuff. So I was always went out to try and have musicians that were as good as I could, and that's right up to today as well. The guys that I've got today in the league are tremendous. They're absolute perfect musicians. They read, throw anything in front of them, and they read it absolutely perfectly. That's why they can back anybody.
Let me interrupt you before we lose the last one. I want to point out, and I want to stay here with the bands, move into guitar players, so I'll draw that down and say so. But there's a point here, folks, that is quite humble about this, but when you think about it, between late 59 and I think early 61, bugger a couple of months, doesn't matter, he had more hits than Johnny O'Keefe and Cole Joy combined. And he's never got the recognition for that, really, has it, when you think of that? Nobody's ever said, oh, well, and that's not taken away from them, but that's something very unique with this man, and I'm a guitar player, right, and one thing that he just said, the last thing he said, Lonnie is fighting now, he won't go and work, he forgoes a lot of jobs because he won't work without a band and he won't work with crap players. He has never done that, and that's to his credit, because one thing that has destroyed live music is virtual bloody reality. Karaoke we've had to come to live with, but if there were more people who had done what Lonnie had done, the world would be better off for it, because it's not like entertainers and bands really get a fortune, do they? At the end of the day, and bearing that out, all this stuff, make sure you have a look around, because there's a fair bit of Lonnie and around the walls. But there's Lonnie with the original. Yeah, that's the original DJs.
Yeah, pretty much.
The band singer with the DJs. Yes.
Oh wow! What about that? I don't think I've seen that. No. Excellent.
The Witch Doctor,
Jesus, look, young there. Holy moly! Yeah.
You didn't they play on one of those records?
Yes, that's why the different guys played on most of my records. Well, not all of them, but most of them. Plus, as well augmented with my band.
With your band. Lonnie's band. He kidnapped Devlin's guitar player, didn't he? Peter.
Well, actually, that was a funny scene, because Devo came over from New Zealand, and he had his band, the Devils, and they were a really great band. And they had a fight. He wanted to go back to New Zealand, where he was a really, really big star. Out here, he just wasn't known. And so he wanted to go back, and they didn't want to go back. So they had some altercation. Some guy came on, John Collins came on to manage him, and he came on, and then so there's all this terrible stuff going on between them. And so the band said, "See you later, John." And right at that time, it was destiny. It was just strange. Right at that time, I had my first Lee men, and they were also causing me problems. And so I said to them, "See you later." Now this is like within days. It was quite amazing how it happened. So I'm looking for a band, thinking, shit, I gotta have a band, right? Because I just fired these guys. And the guitar player of Devo's band, who I didn't know, ran into me. I was living in King's Cross at the time. Ran into me and said, told me what had happened within the last couple of days with Devo. And I said, well, you're the Lee man now. So the Devils became the Lee man. And remarkably enough, Johnny Devlin did the same to me. Took the original Lee man and they became the Devils. So it was really strange how that happened.
And the same thing happened with me. Johnny Red grabbed John Charlie, my keyboard player.
From the House Rockers. And
suddenly they were my guitar player.
That's right, yeah.
I hated him, but now we're the best of friends. Time heals all those wounds. Lonnie,
Sorry, just one very quick one on the end of that before I forget. I don't know if have any of you heard Johnny Guitar by Lonnie Lee?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. We're still on the world standard for recording. What's it say? It's record for an instrument.
Wonderful, yeah. It was Australia's first national number one.
Yeah.
Well, it was from a movie. There was a movie called Johnny Guitar, and Peggy Lee and Victor Sylvester, her husband, wrote it at the time. So,
Peggy Lee wanted Peter to play guitar for her.
Yeah,
She drove a kidnap back to the States.
we won't go there, will we?
but Starlight Star Bright was written by John Mariscalco. Right. Okay. Now, Lonnie's just released a new single, which is a beautiful song. It really is. It's one of those ones you hear it once and you can't get it out of your mind. You know, you'll be driving the car and it'll still be there. The themes. Yeah, it's one of those. It's called a good hook. We look for those hooks. Yeah. And the surprising thing is, the guy that wrote Starlight Starlight also wrote Little Richard things. Rip It Up.
Good Night, Smiley, Ready Teddy.
Yes.
And some beautiful ballads. Well, there's a song, I keep forgetting the name of the thing, but it's Good Night, My Love. Da, 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 da. Huh? Good Night, no, goodness. Is it Good Night, Sweetheart? Anyone know the title of it? Good Night, My Love. Da, 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 da. You know it?
Oh, we know every song.
Phrases. But it's not like in my imagination that was really well beautiful.
I can't understand how a man could write as beautiful a song as this new one, which you see in my eyes, and Starlight Star Bright, which was a great hit, and write those other things.
Yeah, he was a really, really talented guy. He went on after Starlight Star Bright and then Rip It Up and Really Teddy and all that he did for Elvis, and he wrote a lot also for Fats Domino. Be My Guest was one, and a whole bunch of other songs. And then he went off to, he started writing with other people. Nilsson, he wrote a lot of songs for Nilsson.
Yep.
And, no. Well, he didn't record as a recording artist. They may have got something to record, but he wasn't a singer, he was a pure songwriter.
I was just talking about footage from old black and white television shows, etc. And as I said, there's very little of it around. I've got here, which we'll show. We might show a little bit of that, we'll get back into the narration again. But this is a show called Where the Action Is. And what happened there? Johnny O'Keefe, of course, he had 6 o'clock rock, then the Johnny O'Keefe show, sing, and then nobody wanted him, and he went on to do Where the Action Is. Now, yeah, before we play this, what was you were very close to this. You were there, the car accident.
That was
which a lot of people know. Johnny O'Keefe had this terrible car accident out of Kempsey, but you were there.
Yes, we're just on the first rock and roll tour from Sydney, country rock and roll tour along the eastern seaboard of Australia. We went right up to Cairns, and it was like a month tour. And prior to that, no one out of Sydney had seen the people that they're hearing on radio or watching on 6 o'clock rock and bandstand. And so it was really a new, exciting thing. So we went and did this tour. It lasted about a month. After we finished there, the tour was really horrendous because we hit the monsoons and nearly fell off cliffs, and oh my God, it was just incredible bloody tour. So we eventually get back to Surfers Paradise. Now Surfers in those days was just this one street, Carroll Avenue, and there was the Beachcomber, which was Bernard Elsie's Beachcomber. That was the only place that there was, and it was like a house, converted sort of house with floors like this. The stage, it wasn't even as well. No, there wasn't a stage. It's like just flat. And outside there was a swimming pool with lilies in it.
Yeah, it's like a big boarding house.
And it was, and they all dressed. The girls dressed in Hawaiian things. You know, they do all the Hawaiian stuff. So it was like a copy from Hawaii. But that's all there was. There was nothing else. So we were, Lee Gordon gave us a 10-day holiday as a thank you for doing this tour in Surfers. So while we were there, we played a couple of nights at this beachcomber place. And then when it was up, I had my car there, and John had his car there. And so we decided to drive back to Sydney, whereas the other guys were going back on the bus. So I was in my car with one of my guitarists and who else? And Lou Cash. That's my Jock's guitarist, the Indonesian guy. So they was in my car, and then John had in his car, he had Johnny Greenan, the sax player, John's wife Jan, and John.
Catfish bailed out. He said, I can't.
That's right, he didn't go. Anyway, so about 2 o'clock in the morning we decided to leave Surfers Paradise, head back to Sydney. And it was a long haul in those days, if any of you took that trip then. It was a lot of the bridges weren't there, so you'd go over on punts and things like that. So anyway, we made arrangements to meet at certain areas down there. So we did one place, I think around Grafton or something, we met there. And it was like very dark at night. And then we said, okay, we'll meet at the punt at Kempsey, just before Kempsey on the river at Kempsey. There was a place there where you could get gas and also have breakfast. So we said, okay, we'll meet there and have breakfast. Somehow John sped through faster than me, and we got in about 20 minutes after he was there. And we got into Sawyer's car park there, and so we drove in, and they were just finishing breakfast. And so he said, well, look, we won't wait, we'll go on, then we'll see you down the track. So I said, okay, so we ordered breakfast. He caught the ferry over, and the next ferry was like half an hour or something, 45 minutes, and then we caught that. So as we're going on the Sydney side of this river near Kempsey, about 30 miles out of Kempsey, or 13 miles out of Kempsey, it was sort of just a little bit out, on this really straight road, and it was just a really thin road. You could just get two cars on, one going one way, one going the other, and with the table drain going like this. And I saw this red thing on the left, and I said to the guys, Jesus, looks like a plane has crashed, because there's this big thing sticking up in the air like this. And as we got closer, I realised it was Jock's car, and it had crashed, and there was a big truck full of gravel there, and it was in the middle of the road. So he had come along like this. The truck had hit on the fender, just the driver's side fender, and then pushed it down there. The ambulance had come, so it happened maybe like half an hour. It was near a little farm, so they just come, and we saw the bodies there, and they put them into the ambulance, and we were trying to work out, is anyone dead? And one said, yeah, two of them are dead, and there's one alive. And we thought, oh Christ, who was who? And they did sped off, so we still didn't know. So I'm wandering around the car and getting personal things out of the car. And Lou Cash said, he's got some marijuana. And I said, well, shit, where is it? Where would it be? So he said, I think he put it in a hubcap. So I took the hubcap off the left front there, and sure enough, there was a tiny little bag of pot, and so I took that before the police came. And then we went into the hospital, into Kempsey Hospital, and we said, who died? And he said, no one died, but they were really, really messed up. And so I said, what about Johnny O'Keefe? And they said, well, yes, he's unconscious, and she was pretty bad as well. And so I called his mum, John's mum, who I knew very, very well, and broke the news to her, and then we left to go back to Sydney after about an hour. But that accident was the thing that tipped Jock over, because not so much the accident itself, but he was very, very greatly disfigured. And in those days, cosmetic surgery wasn't like it is now, where it was just everywhere. It was only one or two people that did it, and it was very, very hard to do. So they got his face back pretty good, but psychologically, it really did a trip. And then on top of that, the drugs that they gave him for the pain, really started him on this long haul. The similar sort of thing to Elvis, just got him addicted. The drugs were just so terribly strong. And that was the
he never recovered from that, did he? That's the point I was going to make, and that's why he lost his momentum in television, because he couldn't handle it.
But how long was it before he was going between all of the surgery, going back? He wouldn't stop doing bloody 6 o'clock roll.
No, he was doing what he loved to do. It was understandable, because it's the same with me. We got into the industry in those days, like you guys, because we loved to do it. Now, if there was no money in it, we would have still gotten into it, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to sing,
It was only weeks, wasn't it? He was back.
Oh yes, he was backwards and forwards all the time, and he'd get to where the pressure was too great, so they shoved him back up into hospital. And it went on for years, right through Sing Sing Sing, 6 o'clock rock, pretty much right the way through. And of course it got worse as it went because he got involved in more things to counteract the other things that were doing things.
I don't want to make this into one of those Jade Hurley mornings. Getting down.
Hang on, explain to them what we tend to forget. They got no idea what we're talking about. This is yesterday morning, we had Jade here.
Jade here, and he started...
You know Jade Hurley?
Yeah, he got onto the O'Keefe thing, and then he started on that, and how he...
We're all nearly dying.
Yeah, and how he had to clean him up in a motel, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse, and we were all nearly in tears. But the aftermath of that accident, and a lot of people don't know, Johnny Greenham's wife, who was in the back seat, she had a miscarriage. They got back to Sydney, and a couple of years later, she died. And he, Johnny Greenham, the sax player with the DJs, he was left with a couple of children. And one of the little girls was walking down the back steps and fell over near the head, and she died. So it was a tragic time, wasn't it, the whole thing that happened there. Look, what we wanted to do while I was talking about it was just to brighten things up for a minute, and we'll get back to talking to Lonnie. I just wanted to show you a clip of O'Keefe playing for one of
his You ask me, did my lover hurt me? Can't you tell by the tears in my eyes? Can't you hear it in the way that my voice shakes? Can't you see it in my eyes? You ask me, do I still remember how she held
one story I heard,
me
Ron told me that they had health insurance that Hafkin had set up for them. And when just about the same time that all this stuff went down, Ron had taken his wife in the hospital for some major kind of surgery and found out that Ron had cut off the health insurance.
Oh, how could you possibly do that? Oh, gee. Oh, mercy. Oh, dear.
Yeah, I got one in them, but it don't sound as good. You need to dump some sounds over this way.
I need to go check.
You've never read the manual. That's because you've never read the manual.
All the equipment I got over there, I've got a whole stack of manuals. I've never read none of them.
Indispensable.
Oh yeah, gotta have that. Just the first page. Switch on, switch off. Oh, well, sometimes it's
You all right here, Skip?
Yeah, I'm just waiting on both times.
Was so bright and stars were shining. Can't you see it in my eyes? Even so sublime. And when I stood in this empty home, she turned away and let me go.
He breaks on that on the first beat, but I think the diamond's better.
Can't you hear
That's a diamond here.
And still you ask me, do I love her?
What about triplets?
I like it.
After all
I like it.
that's said and done, she's still the one. Can't you hear it in the way that my voice shakes? Can't you see it in my eyes? Oh, that's right, because we're going back into that repeat then. So if I, I guess now if I think, forget the solo,
Might make it too long with the solo. I mean nothing.
Well,
We haven't even got to the solo yet.
Yeah, we haven't even
Yeah.
got to the song.
Okay.
That's
No,
where you had a
we're
double
still-
take.
we were
Hey,
still
this
1, 2, 3.
this change in the
And still you ask me, do I love you? After all that's said and done, she's still the
Oh, okay. That's B flat, that one. But what she was doing, huh?
No, she was in C.
Oh, she wasn't serious. Who made the rules? Okay. Who made the rules? What's it? I want to shake up. Who said I couldn't do that? Oh, baby, who made the rules? I want to break. Who said I couldn't do that? Better sign. I'm coming through, baby.
hey Ed, come down to the minor chord now. You want to stay in the one chord?
One chord.
Dave, you hear that? Yeah.
I'm coming through, baby. On the blues. Said I couldn't. Now, see, I wanted it different there. I wanted to stop and then.
Yeah, we got it on. It's on the music. We'll be all right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, what's on the intro is you gotta lift out front of. Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah, now look. Now when it gets down in off the 5, it comes up to 5. No, off the 5 chord. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was in wrong key. Yeah, that the first time it breaks on 1, second time it's the second time it's yeah, that's cool. Bum, 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 bum. Do that. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who said I couldn't do that? Couldn't do that.
Up the. Which one you want?
It sounds better to me
going to do three flat two.
All right. Yeah,
You're just gonna hold that last bit?
Yeah.
Da 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 da. Right.
So it's yeah, that part after the bridge, I'm just not too sure how long that goes before that drum fill.
Well, hey, we'll play the bridge.
Let's play the bridge out.
Hey,
Yeah.
from the bridge with the added bar.
That's weird, man.
Yeah, we can.
See, I stopped there singing, period. That's what I mean.
Yeah, we can go right into that solo. Just take those two bars before the solo out, Ed.
Okay.
Sad I couldn't do that. No, it's alright, it's okay to be. I just love, yeah, I love to be free. I'm on the way, just to turn back. I'm a heart like a man, just on the sweat. But we must be on spring contact. Anyway, we'll make the rule. Sad I couldn't do that. Baby, I don't want to fight, 'cause when you're right, you're right. I'm telling you now, that's just how I feel. For the rest of my life, I'm gonna ride for you. There's some shade to be real, 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 real.
There you go. I need a little more of this. I'll have to play it a time or two. There's a couple of things. Well, still. Pretty, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
And the one thing you want to watch out for is crisscross-itis. Everybody gets like this.
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to bring this back way up here.
Right.
So you got to.
Yeah.
Then everything is right here,
Right.
and then everything. Is
Yeah.
like that.
It's cool.
No criss.
Half notes.
Then repeat there.
Retard. Woo, that's gonna be a hard one.
I found what adds some nice strings too. We got the black. I can add another part. It won't take, long to do it. Now here's what these are more like.
Right there, yeah.
These are like,
Well, you really
these
got
are
the
real high
tones now
C.
sounding good. They're all even in there. Yeah. Cool, man.
Oh,
Bob,
that's right.
Yeah.
They're really out there, aren't
you
they?
got me in?
I can play it down here.
Sure.
Be great.
I'll tell you what,
I mean, we could add another.
after the tom pickup,
We could add another part.
it's the,
Beautiful. Cool.
Oh, did I bring my lipstick? I hope I did.
That's the second line in the step. I'm just trying to say it. Piano or horn.
I know, this guy here says, and also here we got, rather than guitar, we made a 2/4 here. This chord again, once again, is the C. It's okay.
I don't know if we're going to record this. I just want to find
All
out.
right, I got you.
Here it is.
D flat diminished. I'm not sure where that's at. Oh, the D flat, yeah.
So this will be a second trumpet, right? Yeah, second trumpet.
Oh, you're gonna do a second pass right now? I'm gonna do all of it. Oh, yeah, he likes to do each section. Yeah.
And directly to the D flat.
Okay. Here we go.
Almost. We gotta get the diminished chord sounded wrong. I don't know. Can we punch it in right there, or just do the whole thing? Huh?
Is there a C in the D flat diminished?
Yeah, G, yeah.
So I can play that?
It's actually yeah, you can play the G, and you can either go down to the F, or go up to the A. G, A, and then and right up to the B flat for the last bar.
And B flat in the last bar?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna play, and that leads to the first for,
It's tough sitting there.
the D flat diminished, and then the C chord with the G in the bass and fill out two more.
Yeah, it's a G bass, and it's a the G chord with the C in the bass, yeah.
Okay.
It's all out, it's like a 6/4 bar there.
Well, let's just do it again then. Starting with the trumpet, two passes.
And here's the thing, even the end is different because there's a retard on the end to the F.
I'll probably just play the last chord. Or maybe I'll play that whole descending line in the last verse.
Well, you want to do the second bridge now?
Yeah, let's do the second bridge.
Okay, this is the studio where Lonnie just recorded a song written by John Mariscalco called Can't You See It in My Eyes. He recorded Little Fees, Who Made the Rules, and he recorded a song by Wayne Jackson, co-written by another guy. I can't think who the other guy is, but it's a beautiful song, and Wayne's just finished putting the horns on it, French horn, trombone and trumpet, and this is the studio backyard actually. It's just so pretty, and the guy owned, this is what basically backyards are like here, and we don't see this in Australia, we just don't see it. There's no fences, and they just own, this is not a expensive house, but there's a beautiful studio underneath here, run by Skip Mitchell. And Bob Babbitt's car. Bob played with the Funk Brothers, and he's been doing the session with us, organising the guys. He's basically the best bass player around, played with Robert Palmer for 15 years. It's Wayne's car there. Wayne is Memphis Horns and played with everybody from Marty Robbins to Aretha Franklin to Billy Joel to Sting to unbelievable, just amazing guys and just wonderful session. They did a great job. So this is the yard and it's just so beautiful. They own from here, the house across the creek and just up there a little bit further. So, and funnily enough, it smells a bit like India. But I think that's because it's sort of damp, humid weather, damp and humid. Very pretty, very pretty. And it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on September the 7th of May.
Sharing his, sharing hers, learning only one thing lasts forever. Heart to heart, hand in hand, we can face it all. I won't let you fall, love will never end. You can call me your best friend. We will always be best friends. We will always be best friends.